Sometimes the most life-changing secret arrives 3 days after your world falls apart. Olivia Bennet stared at the divorce papers for nearly an hour before signing them. The conference room overlooking downtown Manhattan had emptied 20 minutes earlier. The attorneys were gone. The assistants were gone. Even Nathan Cole had already left. Only Olivia remained. The late afternoon sun reflected against the glass walls surrounding her, turning the city skyline into a blur of gold and silver. Her signature sat quietly at the bottom of the final page. 8 years of marriage reduced to a few sheets of paper inside a leather folder. She did not cry. Not there. Not in front of strangers. Not in the building Nathan loved more than their home. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. 43 floors. 43 opportunities to change her mind. 43 opportunities to chase after the man she once believed she would grow old beside. She took none of them. By the time she stepped onto the crowded sidewalk, New York continued moving exactly as it always had. Taxis rushed through intersections. People hurried toward meetings. Street vendors sold coffee to exhausted commuters. Nobody noticed that Olivia Bennet's life had just ended. Or at least that was how it felt. The divorce had not happened because of betrayal. It had not happened because of scandal. In some ways that made it hurt more. Nathan simply decided that his future required fewer complications. His company had grown rapidly during the previous 3 years. Investors wanted more expansion. Media attention increased. New opportunities appeared constantly. Somewhere along the way, Nathan began viewing marriage as another responsibility competing for his time. Olivia remembered the final conversation clearly. He sat across from her in their penthouse apartment while city lights flickered beyond the windows. "I need complete focus right now," he had said. "For how long?" she asked. Nathan never answered directly. "This company is becoming something extraordinary." Olivia waited. "And us." The silence that followed revealed everything. 3 days later she found herself standing inside a small pharmacy 2 blocks from her apartment. The visit had not even been planned. She blamed stress for the exhaustion, stress for the nausea, stress for the strange dizziness she felt every morning. The test sat inside a plain paper bag as she walked home through cold March air. She almost laughed at herself. Pregnancy seemed impossible. Ridiculous. The timing alone felt absurd. Yet 30 minutes later she stood alone in her bathroom staring at 2 unmistakable pink lines. Olivia blinked once. Then again. The result remained unchanged. She slowly lowered herself onto the edge of the bathtub. The city noise outside disappeared. The apartment disappeared. Time itself seemed to stop moving. One thought repeated over and over inside her mind. She was pregnant. A tiny hand moved instinctively toward her stomach. Nothing had changed physically. Nothing was visible. Yet everything was different now. The future she thought had vanished suddenly existed again in a completely unexpected form. Tears finally arrived. Quiet tears. Not from sadness alone. Not from fear alone. From the overwhelming realization that she was no longer completely alone. The following morning Olivia scheduled a medical appointment. She barely slept the night before. Every possible outcome raced through her thoughts. By noon she sat inside a clinic overlooking Central Park. The doctor smiled as she reviewed the results. "Congratulations." One simple word. Olivia felt her throat tighten. The ultrasound screen displayed a tiny shape impossible to fully understand yet impossible to ignore. The heartbeat arrived seconds later. Fast. Steady. Alive. Olivia stared at the monitor without speaking. The sound filled the room. In that moment every business plan, every divorce document, every painful memory lost importance. There was only that heartbeat. The doctor explained dates and timelines. Olivia listened carefully. Then one particular detail settled heavily inside her chest. The pregnancy timeline placed conception shortly before Nathan filed for divorce. He did not know. Not because she hid it. Because neither of them knew yet. Leaving the clinic proved harder than entering it. Olivia sat inside her car. For nearly 30 minutes with the ultrasound photograph resting in her lap. Her phone remained beside her. Nathan's number was still saved. One phone call could change everything. One conversation could alter the course of multiple lives. Her thumb hovered above the screen. She imagined his reaction.
Surprise.
Confusion. Maybe even happiness. Or perhaps obligation disguised as responsibility. The uncertainty terrified her. As she sat there debating, a news notification appeared across her screen. Nathan Cole featured on the cover of a major business magazine. Curious despite herself, Olivia opened the article. The interview focused on his company's expansion plans, his ambitions, his future. Then she found the quote, "My future starts now." Olivia read the sentence twice, 3 times, 4. The words were simple, yet they carried a message louder than anything else he could have said. His future. Not theirs. Not a family. Not a marriage. His. Olivia slowly locked her phone. The call was never made. Outside, traffic continued flowing through Manhattan streets. Inside her car, Olivia Bennett made a decision that would change every chapter that followed. Nathan Cole would move forward believing the divorce ended their story. Olivia would move forward carrying a secret neither of them yet understood. And beneath her heart, a new life had already begun. The ultrasound photograph remained inside Olivia Bennett's purse for almost 2 weeks before she found the courage to look at it again. During the day she focused on practical things. Doctor appointments, financial planning, apartment bills, work projects. She built careful routines because routines felt safer than emotions. But every evening, when the city lights appeared beyond her windows and the apartment became quiet, reality returned. She was going to become a mother. Alone. The realization felt different every time it arrived. Sometimes it brought fear. Sometimes excitement. Sometimes a strange sense of peace she could not explain. One rainy Thursday night she sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea growing cold beside her. The ultrasound photograph rested in front of her. Her phone sat only inches away. Nathan's contact information remained saved exactly where it had always been. She had deleted nothing. Not yet. Olivia stared at the screen. The urge to call him had never fully disappeared. Some part of her still believed he deserved to know. Another part wondered whether the news would change everything. Maybe he would regret the divorce. Maybe he would reconsider. Maybe he would want to be involved. The possibilities created more confusion than comfort. Her fingers hovered over his name. Then she stopped. Because every future she imagined depended on Nathan becoming a different person than the one who had walked away. The next morning she arrived at a medical appointment before heading to work. The doctor reviewed her progress and smiled. Everything looked healthy. Everything looked normal. Olivia listened carefully while taking notes she would later organize into a folder already labeled baby. Seeing the word written there felt surreal. When the appointment ended, she stepped outside into bright sunshine. Across the street a father carried a small child on his shoulders. The little girl laughed while pointing at something in the distance. Olivia found herself smiling. The future suddenly felt less frightening. Not easy, but possible. Days passed. Then weeks. Nathan continued appearing everywhere. Business magazines, industry interviews, financial news programs. His company seemed to dominate every headline. One evening Olivia attended a networking event for clients. She almost skipped it but decided she needed to maintain some sense of normal life. The ballroom overlooked the Hudson River. Hundreds of professionals filled the room. Near the entrance, a large screen displayed highlights from recent business conferences. Olivia froze when Nathan's face appeared. He stood confidently on a stage accepting an industry award. Applause filled the recording. Then came a brief interview. The reporter asked what motivated him most. Nathan smiled directly into the camera. "The future," he answered. "I have never been more focused on what comes next." The audience applauded again. Olivia looked away. Not because the words hurt anymore. Because they clarified something important. Nathan was not looking backward. He was not wondering whether he had made the right decision. He was running toward the life he wanted with complete certainty. That realization finally gave her an answer. The following Sunday she sat alone in Central Park beneath a row of trees beginning to bloom with spring colors. Families filled the pathways. Children played nearby. The city felt softer than usual. Olivia removed her phone from her purse and opened Nathan's contact information one final time. His photograph appeared on the screen. A familiar smile. A familiar face. A familiar chapter of her life. For several moments she simply stared. Then she pressed delete. The confirmation window appeared. She did not hesitate. One touch. The contact disappeared. It felt strangely quiet. Not dramatic. Not heartbreaking. Just final. Olivia leaned back against the park bench and closed her eyes. The wind moved gently through the trees above her. Somewhere nearby a child laughed. For the first time since the divorce, she stopped imagining conversations that would never happen. Nathan would not receive a phone call. He would not receive an email. He would not receive a letter. The choice was no longer driven by anger. Came from acceptance. She could not build her child's future around the hope that someone else might change. 3 months later the apartment felt different. Baby books filled part of the bookshelf. Tiny notes covered the refrigerator. Medical appointments became routine. Olivia learned things she never expected to learn. She also discovered something else. New York no longer felt like home. Every street carried memories. Every restaurant reminded her of another version of her life. One evening she stood beside her apartment window watching traffic flow through Manhattan. The skyline remained beautiful. The city remained alive. Yet her future no longer seemed connected to it. She opened her laptop and began researching smaller cities. Places with quieter neighborhoods. Better schools. Lower costs. Places where a child could grow up without constantly competing against the noise of ambition. Hours later she found herself looking at photographs of a lakeside town in North Carolina. Tree-lined streets. Independent coffee shops. Community parks. Friendly neighborhoods. The images felt peaceful in a way New York never had. Olivia smiled softly. Her hand rested against the gentle curve beginning to appear beneath her sweater. Maybe it is time for a new beginning, she whispered. Outside, Manhattan continued racing toward tomorrow. Inside the apartment, Olivia Bennett quietly began planning her goodbye. Some goodbyes are so quiet that the other person never realizes they happened. Olivia Bennett spent the next 6 weeks preparing for a departure nobody would notice. She sold furniture she no longer needed, packed books into cardboard boxes, organized financial records, updated business contacts. Every evening after work she sat at her dining table surrounded by lists and schedules while soft music played through the apartment. The process felt strangely peaceful. Not because leaving was easy, because for the first time in months, every decision pointed toward a future instead of a memory. Summer arrived gradually across Manhattan. Trees filled with color. Sidewalk cafes became crowded again. Tourists packed city streets with cameras and shopping bags. Olivia watched it all from a distance. The city she once loved no longer felt like home. Felt like a chapter. Important. Meaningful. Finished. Her pregnancy progressed smoothly. Each medical appointment brought reassurance. Each new milestone made the baby feel more real. One afternoon the technician performing an ultrasound smiled before turning the screen slightly toward her. Tiny movements appeared. Small hands. Small feet. A life developing one day at a time. Olivia laughed through unexpected tears. The technician handed her several printed photographs before the appointment ended. On the drive home she stopped for coffee and sat alone beside the Hudson River. The ultrasound pictures rested on the table in front of her. She studied every detail carefully. Then she whispered the word she had not spoken aloud before. Hi, little one. The simple greeting made everything feel real. 2 months later moving day arrived. Rain fell lightly across the city that morning. Olivia stood inside the nearly empty apartment while professional movers carried the final boxes toward the elevator. The rooms echoed now. Gone were the photographs, the artwork, the furniture. Only memories remained. She walked slowly from room to room one final time. The kitchen where she and Nathan once shared breakfast before work. The living room where they celebrated company milestones. The balcony overlooking the city skyline. For years she believed those spaces represented the future she wanted. Standing there now, she realized they represented a version of herself that no longer existed. Her phone vibrated. The moving company was ready to leave. Olivia took one final look through the windows. Then she walked away without looking back again. The flight to North Carolina lasted less than 2 hours. Yet when the plane landed, it felt as though she had crossed into a different life entirely. The town surrounding Lake Waverly was smaller than she remembered from her research. Tree-lined streets replaced crowded avenues. Local businesses replaced towering corporate buildings. The pace felt slower, friendlier, human. Olivia rented a modest lakeside home while waiting for the baby to arrive. It was not luxurious. It was not impressive. But every morning sunlight reflected across the water outside her windows. Every evening the neighborhood became quiet enough to hear crickets. Peace existed there in ways Manhattan never allowed. Autumn arrived shortly before her son was born. The delivery room felt brighter than she expected. Nurses moved calmly around her. Encouraging voices filled the room. Hours seemed to stretch endlessly. Then suddenly everything changed. A cry echoed through the room. Sharp, strong, alive. Olivia closed her eyes as tears slipped down her cheeks. The nurse carefully placed the baby into her arms. Time stopped again, just as it had months earlier in the clinic. Except this time she was not staring at an ultrasound screen. She was staring at her son. Liam Bennett opened his eyes briefly before settling against her chest. Olivia smiled through tears. Hello, Liam. The name felt perfect. The following years passed faster than she believed possible. Sleepless nights became early mornings. Early mornings became preschool. Preschool became kindergarten. Liam grew into an energetic little boy with endless curiosity. He asked questions about everything. Clouds, boats, animals, stars. Nothing escaped his attention. Olivia built her entire world around him. The journey was not easy. There were financial challenges, long workdays, unexpected expenses, moments of exhaustion. Yet every obstacle seemed smaller whenever Liam smiled. As he grew older, certain similarities became impossible to ignore. His eyes resembled Nathan's. So did his smile. Even the way he tilted his head while concentrating looked familiar. Occasionally strangers noticed. He looks just like his father, they would say casually. Olivia always smiled politely, then changed the subject. Liam never asked difficult questions when he was younger. To him, life felt complete. He had a loving mother, friends, school, a community that cared about him. That was enough. Meanwhile, Olivia quietly rebuilt her career. What began as freelance consulting slowly evolved into something larger. Small projects became larger contracts. Larger contracts became referrals. Referrals became a growing business. Clients appreciated her intelligence, professionalism, and reliability. The same qualities Nathan once overlooked became the foundation of her success. 6 years after leaving New York, Olivia stood inside her office overlooking Lake Waverly and reviewed another signed contract. The company she built now employed several people. Revenue continued growing. Stability finally replaced uncertainty. Later that afternoon, she arrived at Liam's elementary school for a parent event. Children filled the playground with laughter. Parents gathered nearby. Liam spotted her immediately and ran across the grass with a huge smile. Mom! Olivia opened her arms. Liam hugged her tightly before launching into a detailed explanation about a science project involving rockets. Olivia listened carefully. As always, the late afternoon sun reflected across the schoolyard. Children laughed. Parents talked. Life moved forward peacefully. Standing there beside her son, Olivia realized something important. She no longer measured success by money, titles, or recognition. Success was this: a child who felt loved, a life built honestly, a future created through patience instead of ambition. And hundreds of miles away, Nathan Cole remained completely unaware that the most important part of his story had been growing up without him. 6 years can transform a life so completely that it begins to feel like someone else's story. Olivia Bennett often thought about that while driving Liam to school each morning. The roads winding around Lake Waverly were lined with tall trees and quiet neighborhoods. Parents waved from front porches. Local shop owners greeted customers by name. Everything moved at a pace that once would have felt impossible to her. Back in Manhattan, every minute carried urgency. Every conversation seemed connected to ambition. Here, people still cared about success, but they cared about family dinners and school concerts too. Olivia preferred it that way. One Monday morning, Liam sat in the passenger seat holding a model rocket he had spent the weekend building. His excitement filled the car. "Do you think it will fly?" he asked. Olivia smiled. "I think it will try." Liam laughed. "That is not the same thing. Most important things start by trying." He considered that answer carefully before nodding as though she had shared some great secret about life. Moments like that made every difficult year worthwhile. After dropping him off at school, Olivia drove toward the office building that now housed Bennett Strategic Consulting. The company had started with a laptop on her dining table and a handful of freelance clients. Today it occupied an entire floor overlooking the lake. 23 employees worked there. Contracts arrived from across the country. Industry publications occasionally featured her insights. Success had arrived quietly. Not through headlines. Not through publicity. Through consistency. Through discipline. Through years of showing up when nobody was watching. Olivia walked through the office greeting employees by name. Several team members were already preparing for an important client presentation. Scheduled later that week. Conversations filled conference rooms. Computer screens displayed market reports and business projections. Watching everything operate smoothly filled her with quiet pride. She had built this. Not alone, but through choices she made when life offered no guarantees. Later that afternoon, her assistant entered carrying several documents. "The Charlotte conference organizers called again," she said. Olivia looked up from her desk. "Already? They seem very excited." Olivia laughed softly. The annual Business Leadership Conference in Charlotte had become one of the largest events in the region. Executives, entrepreneurs, and investors attended from across the country. This year the organizers invited Olivia to deliver a keynote presentation. At first she considered declining. Public speaking had never interested her. Eventually she agreed. The opportunity could help the company continue growing. "Send them confirmation," Olivia said. Her assistant nodded and left. The decision seemed simple at the time. She had no way of knowing that a single conference would soon reconnect two lives separated by nearly 7 years. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Nathan Cole stood inside a television studio preparing for another interview. Success surrounded him. The company he once dreamed about had expanded beyond every expectation. Offices operated internationally. Financial magazines regularly featured his photograph. Industry leaders sought his advice. From the outside he appeared to have everything. Yet the interviews had begun sounding repetitive even to him. Every conversation revolved around growth, investments, acquisitions, and market forecasts. Important topics. Necessary topics. But increasingly empty ones. The host smiled as cameras prepared to roll. What is next for Nathan Cole? Nathan offered the polished answer everyone expected. Expansion. Innovation. New opportunities. The words came automatically. Yet afterward, while traveling back to his penthouse apartment overlooking Manhattan, an unexpected thought entered his mind. He could not remember the last time he genuinely celebrated anything. Success continued arriving. Satisfaction did not. The apartment felt unusually quiet when he arrived home. Floor-to-ceiling windows displayed a breathtaking city skyline. Expensive artwork decorated the walls. Every detail reflected achievement. Yet silence dominated the space. Nathan loosened his tie and poured a glass of water before glancing at a framed photograph tucked away on a bookshelf. Most visitors never noticed it. The picture showed a younger version of himself standing beside Olivia during their first year of marriage. They were smiling, laughing, happy. Nathan stared at the image longer than usual. He rarely allowed himself to revisit those memories. Not because he hated them, because he did not understand them anymore. Somewhere along the way, success became easier to manage than relationships. Easier than vulnerability. Easier than love. The next few weeks passed quickly. Preparations for the Charlotte conference intensified. Olivia finalized presentation materials while balancing client meetings and school activities. Liam remained focused on more important concerns, such as an upcoming science fair and whether dinosaurs would have enjoyed pizza. Life felt stable, predictable, good. One evening Olivia attended a school event where children displayed projects in the gymnasium. Parents moved between tables while students eagerly explained their work. Liam stood proudly beside his rocket display. Several judges stopped to ask questions. Olivia listened from a distance, smiling. Then one parent approached her unexpectedly. "Your son has your smile," the woman said. Olivia thanked her politely. The woman tilted her head. "But his eyes look exactly like his father." The comment was innocent, casual, yet it lingered longer than usual. Later that night, after Liam fell asleep, Olivia stood alone on the back porch overlooking the lake. The water reflected moonlight. Crickets filled the air. She thought briefly about the past, about choices made years ago, about conversations that never happened. Then she looked through the window toward her sleeping son. Regret never arrived, because every path she imagined eventually led back to the same truth. Liam was not a mistake hidden from her future. He was the future. And somewhere far away, destiny was quietly arranging a reunion neither she nor Nathan could yet see coming. Success has a strange way of becoming invisible once it becomes ordinary. Nathan Cole learned that lesson without realizing it. 7 years earlier he measured achievement through milestones, funding rounds, market expansions, media coverage, revenue targets. Every accomplishment felt significant because he was still chasing something. Now the goals arrived regularly. Awards appeared on shelves. Magazine covers arrived in the mail. Industry recognition followed him everywhere. Yet the excitement never lasted. Another achievement simply created space for the next one. On a crisp October morning, Nathan stood inside the executive boardroom of Cole Ventures overlooking Manhattan. Sunlight reflected across the glass walls while senior executives reviewed quarterly results. The numbers were extraordinary. Growth exceeded projections. Investors were pleased. Analysts praised the company publicly. By every measurable standard, Nathan had won the game he dedicated his life to playing. The presentation ended with applause. Board members congratulated him. Handshakes followed. Smiles filled the room. Nathan thanked everyone politely. Then he returned to his office feeling strangely empty. His assistant appeared moments later carrying a stack of correspondence. "You have interviews scheduled this afternoon," she said, "and 3 invitations for leadership conferences." Nathan nodded. Conferences, interviews, awards. The pattern repeated endlessly. One invitation caught his attention briefly. A regional leadership summit in Charlotte, North Carolina. He glanced at it before setting it aside. Nothing about it seemed particularly important. Later that evening he attended a charity gala at a luxury hotel. Crystal chandeliers illuminated the ballroom. Industry leaders filled the room. Conversations revolved around investments, acquisitions, and expansion opportunities. Nathan moved through the crowd effortlessly. He knew how to perform in these environments. He knew when to smile, when to listen, when to speak. Yet somewhere during the evening, he found himself standing alone near a window overlooking the city. Below, thousands of lights stretched toward the horizon. A younger executive approached holding 2 glasses of sparkling water. "You seem distracted." Nathan accepted the drink. "Just tired." The man laughed. "You have everything most people want." Nathan smiled politely. The comment followed him long after the conversation ended. Everything most people want. The statement should have felt satisfying. Instead it raised a question he preferred avoiding. If he had everything, why did his penthouse feel quieter every year? Why did accomplishments feel smaller after they arrived? Why did success seem more impressive from a distance than up close? Weeks passed. Autumn settled across New York. Nathan continued working, traveling, speaking, building. The routine never changed. One Saturday morning he found himself organizing old storage boxes inside a private closet rarely opened. Most contained business records, awards, documents, forgotten photographs. One picture slipped from a folder and landed on the floor. Nathan picked it up automatically. The image showed Olivia standing beside him during a charity fundraiser from years ago. She wore a simple blue dress. Her smile looked natural, unforced, genuine. Nathan stared at the photograph longer than expected. Memories surfaced quietly. Not dramatic memories. Small ones. Coffee before work. Weekend walks. Conversations that lasted late into the night. Back then success felt like something they pursued together. Somewhere along the way he stopped seeing partnership as a strength and started viewing it as a distraction. Nathan placed the photograph back into the box. Yet the memory remained. Later that afternoon he drove through Manhattan without a destination. Traffic moved slowly. Rain touched the windshield. At a red light he noticed a family crossing the street. Parents holding hands with two children. The scene lasted only seconds before the light changed. Still, something about it stayed with him. Not envy. Not regret exactly. More like awareness. An understanding that while he spent years building an empire, other people were building lives. The difference felt important. Thanksgiving arrived. Then December. Holiday decorations appeared throughout the city. Employees exchanged gifts. Friends traveled to visit family. Nathan attended several seasonal events but declined most invitations. One evening he returned home after a corporate celebration and stood beside the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. Snow drifted gently between skyscrapers. The city looked beautiful. Yet the apartment remained silent. No laughter. No conversation. No shared memories being created. Just quiet. His phone buzzed. A message from an old friend. A photograph of children decorating a Christmas tree. Nathan smiled politely before setting the phone aside. Then he looked around the penthouse again. For the first time, the space felt less like success and more like evidence of what success had cost. Across the country, Olivia spent the same evening helping Liam decorate cookies for a school fundraiser. Flour covered half the kitchen. Christmas music played softly in the background. Liam somehow managed to get icing on nearly every available surface. Olivia laughed until tears filled her eyes. The house felt warm. Lived in. Real. The contrast between their lives could not have been greater. One measured achievement through quarterly reports. The other measured it through moments. Neither Nathan nor Olivia knew it yet, but the distance separating their worlds was beginning to shrink. Because sitting near the bottom of Nathan's invitation stack was the leadership conference he had almost ignored. And within weeks, one simple decision would place him in the same room as the woman he believed had disappeared from his life forever. The future rarely announces itself when it arrives. Most of the time it appears disguised as an ordinary day. Olivia Bennett discovered that on a bright spring morning while standing inside Charlotte Douglas International Airport with a rolling suitcase in one hand and Liam's backpack in the other. The annual leadership conference was scheduled to begin the following afternoon. Organizers had invited Olivia to deliver a keynote presentation about entrepreneurship, resilience, and business growth. She viewed the trip as another professional responsibility. Important certainly. Life-changing not even remotely. Liam walked beside her carrying a small notebook filled with sketches of airplanes. Airports fascinated him. Every arriving aircraft represented a mystery waiting to be solved. Every departure suggested an adventure somewhere beyond the horizon. "Look at that one," he said excitedly, pointing toward a large jet outside the terminal windows. Olivia smiled. "You have pointed at 12 airplanes already. This one is different." "They are all different according to you." Liam grinned proudly. They found seats near the gate while waiting for transportation arranged by conference organizers. Around them travelers hurried through the terminal. Business executives reviewed presentations. Families prepared for vacations. Flight announcements echoed through the building. Everything felt ordinary. Meanwhile, several gates away, Nathan Cole stepped off a flight from New York. His schedule for the conference was packed. Interviews, panel discussions, networking events, meetings with investors. The itinerary looked exhausting. Nathan adjusted his jacket while reviewing messages on his phone and walked toward the executive transportation area. He barely noticed the crowd around him. Years of public attention taught him how to move through airports without drawing focus. His mind remained fixed on work. Yet fate often ignores carefully planned schedules. Olivia stood near a coffee counter helping Liam choose a snack when a conference coordinator approached. "Transportation is running late," the woman explained apologetically. "There is a private hospitality lounge available if you would prefer to wait there." Olivia agreed. A quieter environment sounded appealing. Minutes later she and Liam followed the coordinator toward an executive lounge reserved for conference speakers and sponsors. Inside, large windows overlooked the runway. Comfortable seating filled the space. Fresh coffee and refreshments lined one wall. Several business leaders were already present. Olivia settled into a chair near the windows while Liam immediately became fascinated by aircraft activity outside. "Can I watch from over there?" he asked. Olivia nodded. "Stay where I can see you." Liam hurried toward the glass. The moment lasted only seconds, yet it changed everything. Across the lounge, Nathan accepted a cup of coffee before searching for a place to sit. His attention drifted toward the windows, toward a young boy standing there with complete concentration fixed on the runway. Nathan paused. Something felt strangely familiar. The child tilted his head while watching an aircraft taxi into position. Nathan froze. He had seen that gesture before. Hundreds of times. In mirrors, photographs, reflections. The resemblance lasted only a moment before logic interrupted. Coincidences happened. Similar expressions happened. Nathan looked away. Then the boy turned around. The coffee cup nearly slipped from Nathan's hand. The eyes, the smile, even the shape of the face, felt impossible, irrational, yet impossible to ignore. Nathan found himself staring longer than politeness allowed. Liam remained unaware. He returned to the seating area carrying a brochure featuring airplane diagrams. "Mom, look at this." Nathan's world stopped. "Mom." A single word. The woman seated beside the boy lifted her head. "Olivia." 7 years disappeared instantly. The lounge seemed to fade around him. Conversations became distant noise. Nathan could not move. Olivia looked exactly as he remembered and completely different at the same time. Older. Stronger. More confident. The uncertainty he once associated with her had vanished. She looked like someone fully comfortable with her own life. For several seconds neither person spoke. Then Olivia noticed him. Surprise crossed her face briefly. Not shock. Not panic. Simply surprise. As though she had unexpectedly encountered someone from another chapter of her life. Nathan stepped forward slowly. "Olivia." Her expression remained calm. "Hello, Nathan." The exchange sounded almost ordinary. Yet beneath those two words existed 7 years of silence. Liam looked between them curiously. "Mom, who is that?" Olivia hesitated. "Only briefly. An old friend." Nathan felt something tighten inside his chest. Old friend. Perhaps that was all he deserved to be now. Liam smiled politely. "Nice to meet you." Nathan extended a hand automatically. "Nice to meet you too." The boy shook it confidently. The contact lasted only a second. Yet Nathan could not stop noticing details. The eyes. The smile. The familiar mannerisms. Questions formed immediately. Questions he could not ask. Not there. Not yet. A conference organizer appeared moments later announcing transportation arrivals. The interruption broke the strange tension. Olivia stood and gathered her belongings. Liam adjusted his backpack. Everything happened quickly. Too quickly. "It was good seeing you," Nathan said. The sentence sounded inadequate the moment it left his mouth. Olivia offered a polite smile. "You too." Then she and Liam followed the coordinator toward the exit. Nathan remained standing beside the windows long after they disappeared. Outside, airplanes continued arriving and departing. Travelers continued moving through the airport. Life continued exactly as before. Except nothing felt ordinary anymore. Because for the first time in 7 years, Nathan Cole had seen Olivia Bennett again. And standing beside her was a little boy whose face felt disturbingly familiar. Some truths arrive like lightning. Not because they are loud but because they illuminate everything at once. Nathan Cole spent the entire afternoon trying to focus on the conference schedule. He attended panel discussions, participated in executive meetings, answered questions from reporters. Outwardly, nothing appeared different. Internally, his thoughts never left the airport lounge. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the same image. Olivia sitting beside the window, the young boy smiling while talking about airplanes. The resemblance refused to disappear. Logic told him he was imagining connections that did not exist. Emotion disagreed. By evening, curiosity had become something heavier. During the conference welcome reception, executives and entrepreneurs filled a luxury ballroom overlooking downtown Charlotte. Conversations drifted between business trends and investment opportunities. Nathan moved through the crowd automatically. Then he saw Olivia standing near the stage speaking with several attendees. Confidence surrounded her naturally. People listened when she spoke. They respected her opinions. More importantly, she looked happy. Not the polished happiness people perform for photographs. Genuine happiness. The kind that settles into a person's posture. Nathan watched from a distance longer than he intended. Eventually he approached. Olivia noticed him immediately. "Nathan, your presentation this afternoon was impressive." She smiled politely. "Thank you." The conversation felt surprisingly comfortable. Years had removed much of the tension. They spoke about business, the conference, mutual acquaintances, safe subjects. Then Nathan asked the question he had been carrying all day. "Your son seems like a great kid." Olivia's smile softened. "He is." Pride filled her voice instantly. Nathan noticed. "How old is he?" The question sounded harmless, ordinary. Yet everything changed the moment she answered. 6. Nathan felt the room tilt slightly. 6. Such a simple number. Such a devastating one. His mind immediately began calculating. Dates. Years. Timelines. The divorce. The months before it. The memories he had spent years avoiding suddenly returned with terrifying clarity. Olivia saw something change in his expression. She understood immediately. Not because he said anything. Because she knew exactly where his thoughts had gone. Neither spoke for several seconds. Around them the reception continued normally. Glasses clinked. Music played. Conversations filled the ballroom. Yet for Nathan, everything seemed distant. One number echoed repeatedly inside his mind. 6. Olivia looked away first. "I should check on Liam." Nathan nodded automatically. "Of course." She left quietly. He remained standing exactly where he was. Long after she disappeared into the crowd. Later that night Nathan sat alone inside his hotel suite overlooking the city. Charlotte's skyline glowed beneath the darkness. The conference materials spread across his desk remained untouched. Sleep felt impossible. He replayed every detail from the past 7 years. The timing. The divorce. Olivia's sudden disappearance from New York. Her decision to relocate. Her refusal to contact him. The pieces aligned too perfectly. Nathan walked toward the window. His reflection stared back at him. Older. More successful. More accomplished. Yet in that moment he felt none of those things. Instead he felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Not fear of losing money. Not fear of failure. Fear that he had already lost something irreplaceable. The next morning Olivia delivered her keynote presentation to a packed auditorium. Liam sat in the audience near the front beside several conference organizers. He looked proud enough to burst. Nathan arrived early and quietly took a seat near the back. He listened as Olivia spoke about resilience, about rebuilding after unexpected setbacks, about creating opportunities instead of waiting for them. She never mentioned him, never mentioned divorce, never mentioned sacrifice. Yet somehow every story revealed pieces of the journey she had taken. The audience applauded repeatedly. Nathan found himself applauding too, because for the first time he understood something important. Olivia had not survived because someone rescued her. She had survived because she refused to surrender. After the presentation ended, attendees gathered around her. Congratulations. Questions. Networking opportunities. Liam stood nearby holding her briefcase. Nathan watched the interaction carefully. The boy's mannerisms felt painfully familiar now. The way he smiled. The way he listened. The way he pushed his hair back while concentrating. Nathan recognized pieces of himself everywhere. Finally, late that afternoon, he found a moment alone with Olivia near an outdoor terrace overlooking the city. Wind moved gently through the air. Traffic drifted below. Neither person spoke immediately. Nathan looked directly at her. The timeline matches. Olivia closed her eyes briefly. Not from surprise. From exhaustion. She always knew this conversation would arrive eventually. She simply never expected it here. Nathan continued quietly. Does it? The question contained no accusation. No anger. only hope and fear existing together. Olivia looked toward the skyline before answering. Yes. One word. That was all. Yet it changed everything. Nathan stared at her. 7 years collapsed into silence. Every success he celebrated suddenly felt smaller. Every missed birthday. Every first day of school. Every bedtime story. Every scraped knee. Every science project. Every memory. Gone. Not because someone stole them. Because he was never there. Nathan lowered his eyes. Emotion tightened his throat unexpectedly. He is my son. Olivia nodded. Yes. The truth finally existed between them. No lawyers. No contracts. No business negotiations. Just reality. Nathan looked out across the city as the weight of 7 lost years settled onto his shoulders. For the first time in his adult life, there was no strategy capable of fixing what had already happened. And for the first time in 7 years, Olivia Bennett no longer carried the secret alone. There are moments when a person realizes that money cannot purchase a single second of the past. Nathan Cole experienced that realization during the flight back to New York. The conference had ended. Executives returned to their companies. Speakers returned to their schedules. Life moved forward for everyone. Yet Nathan sat alone in the cabin of his private jet, staring at the clouds outside the window, while one thought repeated endlessly inside his mind. He had a son. A 6-year-old boy had grown up without him. Not because of distance. Not because of circumstance. Because of choices. His choices. For 7 years he believed success required sacrifice. Now he understood what had actually been sacrificed. The realization followed him everywhere. Board meetings felt less important. Interviews felt hollow. Business victories felt strangely disconnected from reality. Several days after returning to Manhattan, Nathan found himself standing outside an elementary school in Lake Waverly. He had spent hours debating whether to come. Olivia never told him to stay away. She never invited him either. In the end he chose honesty. He wanted to see his son again. Not through photographs. Not through memories he never experienced. In person. Children filled the playground during afternoon dismissal. Parents gathered near the entrance. Teachers organized. Students into groups. Nathan stood quietly near the edge of the parking area, feeling more nervous than he had before any business presentation. Then he saw Liam. The boy emerged from the building carrying a backpack almost too large for his small frame. He immediately spotted Olivia waiting nearby and began running toward her with a smile. Nathan watched the scene unfold. Something inside him tightened. Not jealousy. Grief. Grief for years already gone. Olivia noticed Nathan standing near the parking lot. Surprise crossed her face briefly before settling into calm acceptance. Liam followed her gaze. That is your friend from the airport. Nathan smiled. Liam. The boy smiled back. The exchange lasted only seconds. Yet Nathan treasured it more than meetings worth millions of dollars. Over the following weeks he returned several times. Carefully. Respectfully. Never demanding anything. Never assuming entitlement. Sometimes he attended school events. Sometimes he sat with Olivia and Liam at a local ice cream shop. Sometimes conversations lasted only a few minutes. Progress moved slowly. Nathan accepted that. Trust could not be rushed. One Saturday morning Liam invited him to watch a youth soccer game. The invitation came casually. You can come if you want. Nathan arrived 30 minutes early. During the game he cheered louder than anyone else. Liam spent most of the match running enthusiastically in approximately the correct direction. When the game ended, the team lost by several points. Liam still looked proud. Nathan laughed while handing him a bottle of water. You played great. I missed 3 goals. That means you were close enough to try. Liam considered the answer carefully, then smiled. The expression felt painfully familiar. Later that afternoon Nathan and Olivia sat on a park bench overlooking the lake while Liam played nearby with friends. Autumn leaves drifted across the water. Families walked along the shoreline. The town felt impossibly different from Manhattan. He is a good kid, Nathan said quietly. Olivia nodded. He is. Nathan watched Liam laughing in the distance. You did all of this by yourself. Olivia looked toward the lake. Not completely. Friends helped. Teachers helped. The community helped. Nathan lowered his eyes. I did not. The honesty surprised even him. Olivia remained silent. There was nothing to argue about. Nothing to defend. The truth already existed. Several weeks later, Nathan did something nobody expected. He reduced his work schedule. Board members questioned the decision. Investors expressed concern. Reporters speculated endlessly. Nathan ignored all of it. For the first time in his adult life, success stopped being his highest priority. He began flying regularly to North Carolina. School events appeared on his calendar beside executive meetings. Soccer games received the same attention as business presentations. Slowly, a relationship formed. Not perfect. Not immediate. Real. Yet there was one relationship that remained unresolved. Olivia. One evening near the beginning of winter, Nathan invited her to dinner after Liam attended a school concert. The restaurant overlooked Lake Waverly. Soft lights reflected across the water. For a while they spoke about ordinary things. Liam's classes. Work projects. Holiday plans. Then Nathan finally said the words he had carried for months. I was wrong. Olivia looked at him quietly. Nathan continued. About everything. The admission came without excuses. Without explanations. I thought success would solve every problem. I thought ambition mattered more than relationships. I thought I had time. His voice softened. I was wrong. Olivia listened carefully. The apology felt sincere because it contained no attempt to shift responsibility. Nathan looked directly at her. If there is any chance. He paused. Any chance at all? Olivia already knew what he was asking. Nathan smiled sadly. I would spend the rest of my life trying to make up for what I lost. Outside, the lake reflected moonlight beneath the winter sky. Inside the restaurant, silence settled gently between them. For the first time in years, Nathan Cole was asking for something he could not earn with money, influence, or success. He was asking for a second chance. And Olivia Bennett finally had the power to decide whether the door he once closed would ever open again. The hardest decisions are rarely made in moments of anger. They are made in moments of clarity. Olivia Bennett spent several days thinking about Nathan's question. Not because she did not know the answer. Because she respected what the answer represented. Years earlier, she would have given almost anything for him to fight for their marriage. Back then she wanted explanations. Apologies. Effort. Now he was finally offering all of those things. The strange part was that she no longer needed them. Winter settled gently over Lake Waverly. Holiday decorations appeared throughout town. Storefront windows glowed with warm lights. Families gathered for seasonal celebrations. Life continued moving forward. One Saturday afternoon, Olivia and Liam attended the town's annual winter festival. Children skated across a temporary ice rink while local musicians performed nearby. Nathan arrived shortly afterward. Liam spotted him immediately. You came. Nathan smiled. I said I would. The boy grinned before pulling him toward a display featuring model airplanes. Olivia watched from a distance. Over the previous months she had witnessed something remarkable. Nathan never tried to buy Liam's affection. Never tried to impress him with wealth. Never treated fatherhood like another achievement to acquire. He simply showed up. Again and again. School events. Soccer games. Science projects.
Ordinai moments.
The moments that actually mattered. Later that evening, after the festival ended and Liam returned home with friends for a holiday movie night, Nathan and Olivia walked beside the lake. Snowflakes drifted lightly across the water. The town looked peaceful beneath the glow of streetlights. Neither spoke immediately. They had reached a point where silence felt comfortable. Eventually Nathan stopped walking. I know I do not deserve another chance. Olivia looked at him. Nathan. He shook his head gently. No. Let me say it. His voice remained calm. Honest. I spent years believing success would make everything worthwhile. Then I met my son and realized I had been measuring the wrong things. Olivia listened quietly. Nathan smiled sadly. You built a life. Without me. A beautiful life. He looked toward the lake. Part of me wishes I could go back and change everything. The confession lingered between them. Olivia understood the feeling. She had imagined alternate versions of the past too. Different conversations, different choices, different outcomes. But eventually she learned something important. Life only moves in one direction. You cannot change it, she said softly. Nathan nodded. I know. Snow continued falling around them. For a moment neither spoke. Then Olivia took a slow breath. I forgive you. Nathan closed his eyes briefly. Relief crossed his face. Genuine relief. Not because forgiveness erased consequences. Because forgiveness ended a burden both of them had carried. Thank you, he whispered. Olivia smiled gently. But forgiveness is not the same thing as going backward. Nathan lowered his eyes. Deep down he already knew. Olivia continued. For years I thought losing our marriage was the worst thing that ever happened to me. She looked toward the frozen shoreline. It was not. Nathan listened carefully. Losing it forced me to discover who I was without it. The words contained no bitterness. Only truth. Olivia turned toward him. I do not want my old life back. Nathan nodded slowly. The answer hurt. Yet he understood. Because standing beside him was not the uncertain woman he once left behind. This Olivia had been built through struggle, growth, sacrifice, and resilience. She belonged to herself now. Several weeks later, Christmas morning arrived. Sunlight filled Olivia's home while wrapping paper covered the living room floor. Liam excitedly opened gifts while explaining every detail of each present. Nathan joined them later that morning. Not as a husband. Not as someone reclaiming a past relationship. As a father. Liam handed him a handmade ornament created at school. This one is yours. Nathan accepted it carefully. The ornament was imperfect. Slightly crooked. Covered with too much glitter. It instantly became one of the most valuable things he owned. Olivia watched the exchange quietly. Peace settled over the room. Not because life had become perfect. Because everyone finally understood their place within it. Months passed. Spring returned. Trees blossomed around Lake Waverly. Liam grew taller. Olivia's company continued expanding. Nathan maintained his commitment to fatherhood while balancing work responsibilities. Their lives found a rhythm nobody could have predicted years earlier. One afternoon, nearly a year after the conference that changed everything, Olivia stood beside the lake watching Liam and Nathan launch model airplanes across an open field. Laughter carried through the air. The scene felt simple. Ordinary. Beautiful. Nathan looked toward her from across the grass and smiled. Olivia smiled back. There was affection there. Respect. Gratitude. But not longing. Some stories end with reconciliation. This one ended with understanding. Nathan eventually walked over while Liam chased another airplane. He is getting pretty good at that. Olivia laughed. Better than both of us. They watched their son together. The word no longer felt strange. Their son. A shared truth finally living in daylight. Nathan looked toward the horizon. I used to think winning meant getting everything I wanted. Olivia raised an eyebrow. And now? Nathan smiled. Now I think winning means appreciating what you still have. Olivia nodded. The lake reflected afternoon sunlight. Children laughed in the distance. Life continued moving forward exactly as it should. She had not rebuilt her life to make someone regret leaving. She had rebuilt it because she deserved happiness. Nathan had not found redemption by winning her back. He found redemption by becoming the father he should have been from the beginning. And as Liam's airplane soared briefly through the spring sky before gliding back toward the earth, Olivia realized the greatest victory was not revenge, success, or even forgiveness. It was freedom. The freedom to move forward without bitterness. The freedom to choose peace over regret. The freedom to become someone stronger than the person heartbreak once tried to destroy. He finally found the family he wanted. The only problem was that they had already learned how to live without him.